screen starts glowing and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the easy good score.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Goods, a film podcast. This is Brian, talking to you over the airwaves. Danny out there?
I am. Hey, Brian. Hey, listeners. Come join us. We can feast on some pies.
And know us better, perhaps. Not yet. Not quite that time.
Oh, foreshadowing.
We're in this nebulous time of year that's post-Halloween, but pre-Christmas. And it's a time of year when I've talked about spooky season decompression. It's like when one holiday ends, you can't just drop the sentiment entirely. You get it a little bit after Christmas, but the big one for me is like November 1st through 6th. It's like, what do you do with yourself?
What do you do with yourself, Brian?
Well, I usually solve the problem with hair of the dog approach. It's like just keep watching the spooky movies.
Prevent the hangover. Yeah.
And often around this time of year, I will throw on a Tim Burton movie for the podcast. We've watched quite a few at this point. He's up there as one of our most covered directors now.
Probably the most distinct number of episodes. Like, we've binged some directors for a single episode, but do you have a tally in your head of these?
Oh, geez. It's like 6 or 7 at this point.
Right.
Because we've done, what, Mars Attacks and Sleepy Hollow.
Ed Wood.
Nightmare Before Christmas that he didn't direct, but was definitely in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely more. Oh, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'm sure there's got to be one more that I'm blanking on. But Sweeney Todd. That's the card that we're hiding behind our back. This week we watched Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007, which is an adaptation of a Stephen Sondheim musical. But the movie definitely has the Tim Burton vibe, the Tim Burton look, and it's got the Tim Burton stars, because it's Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. It's his pet people, his like key actor stable from this era.
And also a lot of people who had appeared in Harry Potter.
Right, it's the whole Harry Potter roster beyond those two. But of course, Helena Bonham Carter was Bellatrix, and then Johnny Depp showed up for a movie when it was revealed that he was Gellert Grindelwald, I guess, in The Fantastic Beasts, but then immediately wasn't.
Right.
So he was in there for all of like 5 minutes because, in fact, it wasn't even that long, because most of the movie he was in a disguise. And then he showed up and it's like, oh, it's Johnny Depp. And then when the next movie came, it wasn't him.
I think he had a cancellation reckoning at some point of there.
Yes, for a bit.
But he's kind of back. I don't know. I don't really know.
Kind of back and kind of not. Pirate 6 is up in the air. Who's to say? But yeah, for like 3 years he was out of the picture. But he's in this picture, Sweeney Todd. So, Dan, what has been your past exposure to Sweeney Todd, the film, the stage show, any incarnation of this story?
Not too extensive, Brian. I had seen this movie. I don't remember exactly when, but my first exposure was seeing the film. And then the high school that we went to, Brian. So you graduated in 2008, I believe. And sometime within like 1 or 2 years after that, might have been like 2 or 3 years after that, our high school put on this production of Sweeney Todd. I think I had siblings in the orchestra, so I have a lot of younger siblings, and several of them went to our high school too, Brian. So I saw it in live performance, a high school take on it. So I don't think they shied away from the content at all. I mean, you're putting a ceiling on the level of the production, but it was still very charming. And I remember during the intermission, we all kind of went outside the theater and we're like rousing and getting snacks and using the bathroom and just kind of like chatting. And naturally the conversation flowed to the musical that we were watching. And we are like, they're doing a really good job. Yeah, it's great stuff. And there's kind of an awkward pause, and my dad said, really disgusting content of this film. But yeah, good job in the musical. It's like horrible murder and cannibalism. It's like, well, I agree with you. Also, kind of the point. Also, it is the elephant in the room when you're just like standing around waiting to watch more people get murdered and eaten. But, anyways, I've just spoiled the film for everybody. Not that it's a secret. I think this is a pretty well known property at this point.
What happens next? Well, that's the play, and he wouldn't want us to give it away. Yeah. So, okay, all good stuff. I like to go to community theater productions and high school productions of musicals, and I am kicking myself. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I didn't go to this production that TJ did of Sweeney Todd. That sounds awesome. I would have very much liked to have seen that back in 2008. I first watched this movie in 2008, my freshman year of college. My roommate showed it to me. My roommate, who also introduced me to Fight Club and Walk Hard. So definitely influential. He showed me this one just before Thanksgiving. And so I think of this as a Thanksgiving film. So it's actually really appropriate to me this time of year, because what is it about? Well, it's about eating, pies specifically, and it's about reuniting with your family after you've been away for a long time. So I watched this, and then I took the train home from Williamsburg, where I went to college, and I came home on the train. And so I was definitely vibing with this film the first time I watched it. I think to really appreciate a movie, to really like lock into it and latch onto it, you got to be in the right headspace in the moment when you watch it. We've kind of spoken about that a few times. And this was a case where I latched onto this. And so the first time I ever heard about Sweeney Todd was a few years before there was a movie. And the log line or whatever that I saw, there were no pictures. It was just Sweeney Todd is about a cannibal barber. That was the bullet point that I heard.
Which is not intuitive.
No, but what I was picturing in my head was Charles Manson. Like 1970, like a killer hippie traveling around in a van. Like somewhere between Manson Family and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what I imagine Sweeney Todd was. Just on that sentence alone. Cannibal barber. So I was picturing like the long hair, the hippie clothes, and like an itinerant lifestyle. And beyond that, I didn't know. But my roommate said, let's watch Sweeney Todd. And of course, by this point, the movie had come out. I didn't know too much about it. I've heard in the film discourse online that, as is sometimes the case with musicals, the trailer kind of hid the fact that it was a musical.
Mm.
And so apparently people went into this and then there was singing and they were upset.
And it's a lot of singing. I mean, it's mostly a sung through musical. I mean, there's a little bit of dialogue, but you can't go more than a couple minutes without some motif kicking in.
Yeah, no, I noticed that particularly this watch. That, remember, we talked about Nightmare Before Christmas, and that very much is nearly sung through. It's like song, 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 and it's almost that way here. Part of it, I think, is that they have condensed the stage show slightly. Because, a stage show is like 2.5 hours plus, and usually you get an intermission to go to the bathroom. Here, they've streamlined it just a bit. Like, almost all the songs are there with some lines cut. There's like some incidental music bits that are cut. And one of the big ones is right at the start when they're singing Attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd. We kind of get like an instrumental version of that over the credits. There's like a little animated sequence.
Right, because this number is supposed to be like the framing number. You get it at the beginning and then you get it at the ending. So he's changed he being Burton. And I don't know, I actually didn't see if he was responsible for the adaptation of the writing of it or if he brought in someone else. But seems like the choice was strip out the framing number. So one thing I wanted to ask you, Brian, we did talk about it in The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's something I've thought a little bit about more since then. How do you feel about sung through musicals?
Okay, good question. And I have a lot to cover here, so we'll see how scattershot it ends up being. So I go to musicals all the time. It's one of my favorite things to do is watch musicals. And just recently I went to a production of Fiddler on the Roof that was staged in the round, so you could sit all around the stage. The set, though, was like quite minimal. It was a bunch of tables. Like the whole set was tables. And sometimes they would use the tables as like, now the table's a wagon. Now the table is a garden plot. But it was all tables.
I can't know how to hear any more about tables, Brian.
Exactly right. I was a little like annoyed. I don't know. I like props. I like sets. Minimalism rarely does it for me. I mean, sometimes you got the limitations of a single space and time in a theater, and you got to think small. You gotta open your mind. You got to suspend your disbelief and accept the limitations of the stage. And often limitation begets creativity. But to name drop another show, Hamilton, for years, I had listened to the soundtrack and I was picturing battles and cannons and buildings and ships. And then finally it drops on Disney Plus and I watch it and they're just standing in a big open wooden paneled room and like the floor spins around. And that's the fanciest thing. And that was not what I was picturing in my head. I was really thinking they would be like riding horses and, torchlight and all these things and guns. And I mean, I guess they got pistols, but I was just picturing something, especially when they release it on like a movie platform. It's like, well, okay, it's going to be like a movie, right? And that's the benefit of adapting a stage show to a movie is that you can have more locations, you can have more props and sets and stuff.
I think there's also something to be said, though, for there being less, not necessarily like an endorsement of minimalism, but just like the nature of a stage, just like the construction of it. You're always kind of viewing this partially constructed reality. It can't be a full space. And obviously, a screen, a movie is the same way, The proscenium is what you call it. With movies, you can do more, like you can have moving cameras and quick cuts so that it kind of constructs the feeling of a full 360-degree space more than you can do with a stage. But I found sometimes that I kind of like that there's not horses and battles and everything like in a musical, because it's like the abstraction of the stage forces your brain to do more imagination, and in doing so makes the play or the musical a little more immersive. And so then if you see like just a filmed version of this, it kind of loses its magic a little bit. And so I think, yeah, there's a fine line between like a good film adaptation, but sometimes a less good film adaptation almost makes you like see the musical as less. Like I kind of feel like Dear Evan Hansen is something that might have suffered from this. Like I don't know anybody who likes the movie version of Dear Evan Hansen. I think it gets a little overhated. I'm kind of a little more ambivalent on it. Like, I think part of the reason that people are reacting to it is they're reacting to some of the things they're supposed to be disgusted about the story. But I do think that, like, seeing it actually in a high school and, like, in a home and stuff, like, loses the sense of separation and abstraction from the material, where you kind of fill in the gaps a little bit more in the way that you don't have to do with a movie. So I don't know. I'm still reckoning with it. I'm very much not an expert on the theory of stage and drama and dramaturgy. I know there's like whole sciences and books and stuff like dissecting why people find watching those kinds of things interesting and different ways you can present stuff, and like what that says about your story and about you and about the audience and all these things. But I don't know.
That said, I've watched several stage productions subsequently of Sweeney Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Different groups put it on, and I want to talk about differences between the stage show and the film. I've also watched like televised versions of the stage show, including one that was a recording in like, I don't know, 1980 or something. So the Sondheim musical debuted in 1979, and it itself was an adaptation of a non-musical play by a guy named Christopher Bond from 1970. And that was inspired by a pulp novel that Sweeney Todd, the character, initially appeared in, called The String of Pearls, published way back in 1847. So Sweeney Todd's got a lineage, and there have been various adaptations other than just the stage show. So it has tendrils, it has branches.
Right.
And the initial cast of the stage show, the musical by Sondheim, had Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Lovett. And I got to look up who the original Sweeney was. When I watched the like 1980 version, Sweeney was played by an actor named George Hurd, but I don't think he originated the role. I don't think he was the very first, but he was just an early one.
Mm.
And then there's an episode of The Office where there is a community theater production of Sweeney Todd. Have you seen that?
I have, but it has been a long time.
Okay. And the story is that Andy, what's his name? Helms? Ed Helms.
Yeah, Andy Bernard is the character. Yeah.
Yes. And he plays Anthony, the young man in Sweeney Todd. A recurring gag on The Office is that Andy is like unappreciated by his family. Like he went to Cornell and now he's in this, not super prestigious paper merchant job, but he has these parents who are like upper crust rich people who don't think he's doing enough with his life. And he has an older brother played by Josh Groban, who's like the apple of his parents' eye and can do no wrong and is just succeeding way more than Andy is. Well, Dan, one of the most recent, highest profile people to play Sweeney Todd on Broadway was Josh Groban.
Life imitates art.
Right. And so I think like maybe the best singer so far to play the part, Josh Groban.
Right. Because Johnny Depp, not known as a singer.
Exactly. And the actors do their own singing in this film, which is kind of cool.
Right.
If I could play a part on stage, I think I would want to play Sweeney Todd.
Really?
Yes.
Why that?
Well, I don't have the vocal range to play the Phantom of the Opera. Not to say that I have it to play Sweeney Todd, but it's a little closer. I don't know. Have you thought about that, Dan? If you could play a part, is there a part that you have in mind?
That's a good question. Man, if they did a stage version of a Goofy movie, I think that would be fun to be either Max or Goofy.
They really should do that at this point. It's like they're doing other Disney stage productions.
Yeah.
Why not a Goofy movie? A Goofy musical.
You could even call it that. Man, I don't know. I might noodle on it. Let's see if I come up with a good answer by the end of the episode here, Brian.
Sure. This movie quickly became one of my favorites. I mean, when we did our top 100, it was pretty high up there. It may have changed position slightly, but it's not a secret that I like this one. It's got people in top hats. And I don't know, we'll dig into why it earned such a high slot.
Mm-hmm.
The story kicks off with a ship pulling in the harbor. Front and center is this young guy named Anthony. And he's basically singing about that he's a sailor and he's traveled the world and he's seen all these wonders and now he's back home in London. Then Sweeney Todd steps out. He says, well, get ready because life sucks and it's bleak and humans are animals and just everything is terrible. And so that's the clash of personalities here. And Anthony's last name is even Hope. So he's the positive, young, unfettered guy. And Sweeney Todd is Johnny Depp with a white skunk stripe in his hair.
Definitely looking a little bit like Edward Scissorhands grew 20 years. 15 years.
Absolutely. Or his part in Corpse Bride, where he's, a stop motion doll, but very
Hmm.
much with this look of like Vincent in the stop motion short with the very narrow face, the pointed chin, and the upswept hair, and like the big doleful eyes. That's the Sweeney Todd look. Like slightly pinched, like an urchin.
Right.
I really noticed the color grading this time, where it's all like slightly blue. It's got like a blue cast to everything.
Yeah, this is a very bleak looking movie for pretty much its entire duration. There's like a couple of moments where it goes away from this blue gray grading. I mean, even like the way they depict London, it doesn't feel like a city. It feels like a hellscape. It's like it's always dark and smoggy. I feel like as I'm watching this, just where my headspace is at is I'm admiring the production and I'm admiring the way that Tim Burton is like leaning into the horror elements. Like the mood is very Burton-esque, and you can see why he was drawn to this story and this play. I also feel a suppression of the story's intellectual curiosity. I just feel like this is a story about so many different things at once. And to Tim Burton, it's about Johnny Depp sure looks funny with a white streak in his hair. And this is like a scary place and we're going to show you lots of blood. Like you don't lose all of the content of it. And I'm sure he was also engaging with the material more than I just gave him credit for. But I don't know. I kind of wonder if you gave this movie to five other people, you would just have five totally different moods for this story. It's just like a story with such crazy extremes, ironies, and contradictions that it's definitely the Burton take on it, which is image first, mood first, ideas later, which is okay. So, story, you can tell stories different ways.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It also has like a pop-up book thing going on that this never feels like a real space totally.
Right.
The camera will even kind of zig and zag through the streets, and it's like this digitally composited, like paper layers. Like everything's kind of a facade.
I thought the CGI zooming through the street looked so tacky and dumb. I did not like that effect.
It's only really used a couple times. It's like we are in the harbor, and then to get into the city further, it does this zoom thing, and then it doesn't really happen again.
Yeah. The more CGI there is, it kind of pulls me out a little bit. So we're at this opening scene, and I feel like I started a thought I asked you about, and I wanted to close that loop because we're already singing about London right as they're walking off the boat. So yeah, it's pretty much a sung through musical. I've heard it called an operetta. I don't know exactly what that means. I've heard an old joke that what's the difference between an opera and a musical? An opera is done at an opera house, which is to say there really isn't a difference between what an opera and a musical is. They're like conceptually the same thing. It's just the way that they're presented.
I think opera is in a language you don't understand.
But they have English language operas, Brian.
That's true. We'll talk about opera and languages of opera before too long.
Okay. But yes, so sung through musicals, I guess I'll just say what the thing that I've been thinking about, which is I feel like they do a really good job of like setting a mood and then bringing you in and making the whole overall presentation feel kind of like maybe not epic, but like just kind of emotionally arch. But it flattens the music a little bit, like the songs. When I say flattens the music, I mean the songs. So like think about like a high school musical when you go to get your head in the game. It's like you've just completely broken from like a normal talking reality to like this theatrical singing thing. And the contrast is you were talking and now you're singing. And so like you really remember that specific number. And I feel like you'd lose that a little bit if something's sung through, even though you get an overarching mood to the musical.
Yes, you asked me about how did I feel about sung through, and I railed against minimalism, which was I never found my way back to the point. But sung through, I feel the same way that you do. That it's harder to appreciate any one song if it's just songs nonstop. A couple shows that I saw recently that were like very much sung through. One is Les Miserables,
Hmm.
and there was a Les Miserables movie, and actually it had some of the cast from this one in it. So we'll probably come back to that. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes you got to pump the brakes so that I can appreciate that there was a song. And if it's just all the time, it feels like the whole thing is one song. I'm more of the Disney movie school, where it's like you have a song and then later you can play that song. And you don't need the whole continuum of the whole show to understand it or appreciate it. You can put on Let It Go, or you can put on Just Can't Wait to Be King, or something like that, and get a significant part of the experience.
I do like the idea of leitmotifs, little musical ideas that kind of usually represent an idea or something that kind of bounce around the whole musical. And this has some of that. I mean, I think famously Sondheim was a very motific writer. And I guess I'm thinking more of scores where I hear that. Like you can have it in scores. Like in How to Train Your Dragon, there's a couple of motifs that occur. And even in Titanic, you have a couple of them. And La La Land, of course. If that's done right, I think it can be really powerful. But I'm with you that I like a song. Give me a song. Give me something 5 minutes I can play on YouTube and get really amped, you know?
Right. And the storyline that we get is that apparently Sweeney Todd, Johnny Depp, was floating on like a raft out in the ocean, and Anthony the sailor found him and pulled him aboard because Sweeney had been, what's the word, transported to Australia. He had been like convicted on sham charges and taken to a prison colony in Australia, and then he'd managed to escape on a raft, and he got picked up. So we don't see any of that, we're just told that. But I think it's kind of funny that British people didn't even arrive in Australia until after America was independent. So it was like America Part 2. It's like, well, we can't send our prisoners to America anymore, so let's try this place. Australia is so far away, Dan. It really is like the ends of the earth.
My brother Will went there on vacation in the past year. And yeah, I mean, it just seems like it takes forever to get there. And it's like you're on a different planet, it seems like. The nature and the animals are different. It's remote. People talk kind of weird. I've noticed this. Can't remember if we've really talked about this, but it's happened multiple times where I'll be watching a movie and I'll be like, this feels a little bit off. And there's different ways it can feel off. I can usually guess. It's like, oh, this is Canadian. Well, or the one is if it's kind of mean and the characters are like talking nonstop and not really reacting to the mean things that the people are saying, it's Australian. It's got like this banteriness to it. I used to always think like, oh, it'd be cool to go to Australia where people they live in the wild and they're laid back and stuff. But now I find it just seems like somewhere you go to escape everything else. I feel about Alaska the same way. I'm not saying that everyone who lives in either of those places or has sought out those places is escaping some like something, but that's kind of how I feel. It's like I would go there if I wanted to just get away from absolutely everything that I've ever known, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a last frontier vibe. I have a friend who met his wife on a dating app, and she lived in Australia, and he went out there and met her out there, and now they're married and have kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had a coworker who she went on a long trip to Australia, and then later she's like, "I think I'm gonna go back to Australia." And we were speculating, could there be something pulling her back? And then within a year, she was engaged to someone in Australia.
Wow. But he's out of Australia. He's come back now to London, where he has a past. Because, like, song number 2, or 1.5, is Johnny Depp says that he wasn't always Sweeney Todd. Formerly, he was this guy named Benjamin Barker, who was a barber in London, and he had a pretty wife. But our villain, I mean, perhaps there are several villains in this film, but our antagonist, played by Snape, Alan Rickman, coveted Benjamin Barker's wife. He was a pious vulture of the law who, with a gesture of his claw, removed the barber from his plate. Then there was nothing but to wait. He's a judge, and so he's a pivotal part of the legal system, and he can leverage his power. And so he convicts Barker in this flashback to be sent to Australia, basically. We don't really learn what the charges were, what even the pretense was, but he's gone now because the judge willed it. And who is the judge's sidekick, Dan?
Oh, my favorite goon in all of cinema. Goon number one. Put him in the Hall of Goon. It's like the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I was going for something there. But Timothy Spall.
I don't know if I want to go to the Hall of Goon.
Yeah. I found that the more I watch movies, you'd be like, oh, I'm kind of tired of seeing this guy. You know, it's like, oh, I've seen 10 movies and 5 of them have this guy. But no, you're like, what? Hold on. This whole unlocks this whole dimension of this guy. This guy brings a thing that I wouldn't have recognized if I hadn't seen him bring that same thing into 5 of the last 10 movies I've watched. And Timothy Spall, man, I just brightens my day when I see that guy being a miserable little rodent faced guy.
Rat man.
Yeah. One of the best. Love Timothy Spall. Also plays he's a Harry Potter guy. He's the Wormtail, Peter Pettigrew. And then he was in Enchanted. And wasn't there another one that we talked about that he was in?
I feel like when we talked about Enchanted, there was another movie you brought up, but I don't remember what it was.
Now I'm gonna think about it.
I watched a movie where he played Winston Churchill.
Yeah, he's like a legit actor too. Like he has some art film or like at least prestige film roles.
So Barker has this alias of Sweeney Todd now, and he's come back with the goal of reuniting with his family and getting revenge on the judge. Because before he went away, Barker had a daughter with his wife. And so reunite with his wife and his daughter, that's part of what he wants to do. But he comes back to his old stomping grounds on Fleet Street, which, have you ever been to London, Dan?
I have not.
Okay. That's on my bucket list. I haven't been either. But Fleet Street is a real place. You can really go to Fleet Street.
Are there any murderous barbers there?
Well, a meme I've seen a lot the last few weeks, Dan, is you never know what people are doing in their house. So who can say? Right? It's a variation of behind closed doors, but somebody will post a strange reel on Instagram or TikTok, and the top comment is, you never know what somebody's doing in their house. So I was thinking about that watching this movie. But he gets back to where he used to live and work, and there is this woman working there, Mrs. Lovett, played by Helena Bonham Carter, who makes pies, meat pies. And I suppose meat pies were common enough in this era. You think of that as like a staple of British Christmas. Although I think mincemeat pies are not actually meat. I think it's like fruitcake filling. But British food is very scary and confusing overall.
One of our recurring topics on the goods, that food from the British Isles, it's the worst cuisine.
And this film will do nothing to dissuade you of that notion.
I guess I would want to eat the best pies in London, but like the worst pies in London, it's like the worst toilet in Scotland, man. Just get me away from there.
I really like the rhythm of this song because there's a lot of like drumming and stomping. It all plays into just the image that this is a terrible place to be, because she's like stomping roaches and pounding on the table with the rolling pin. One of the like telecasts of this musical that I watched had Emma Thompson as Mrs. Lovett, and she was good at this part.
Okay. It would have been interesting if she had been in this one, because she and Snape have their Love Actually connection. Where they're antagonistic.
Yeah, and I think the part was originally written with Angela Lansbury in mind.
I recently watched Gaslight from 1944, which was her debut. I think 44 was the American version, but she's really good in that. She's a classic.
Oh man, I've got to see that. The one I'm familiar with super early on for her is Picture of Dorian Gray,
Mm,
which she's good in that too. Mrs. Lovett reveals pretty soon that she remembers Benjamin Barker. She remembers this guy in his past life when he was a barber, and she sings like a flip side version of his early on song where when Sweeney was singing it, he was praising the beauty of his wife. And when Mrs. Lovett is singing it, she's praising the attractiveness of Sweeney. So, hinting pretty unsubtly that she has the hots for Johnny Depp here. But he's on this revenge quest. And that's like his sole care is he wants revenge because what Mrs. Lovett tells him is that after he was sent away, the judge raped his wife at a party and then adopted his daughter as his own kid.
right. And the wife committed suicide by drinking arsenic. And this, I had not remembered this sequence being in the movie, but where the wife gets abducted and then, yes, implied. Did it actually say the word rape? I can't remember. Or is that just like strongly implied?
It's not part of the song, but they drug her at the party. And what is the wording? So Sweeney Todd is one that I could do from memory, but she says they figured she had to be daft, you see, so all of them stood there and laughed, you see. Poor thing. And he kind of surges in on her supine form.
Right. And this, the way it's staged in the film is it's at this masquerade type ball with those kind of creepy masquerade long nosed masks that are just very uncanny. Definitely setting a mood. I guess Eyes Wide Shut has also like forever linked them with seediness and hoardiness.
Yeah, or Amadeus. It's the Commedia dell'arte look with the garish extended features. And then yeah, he's adopted the daughter. Have you ever seen the movie? I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing. I think it's The Mask of Zorro, the Antonio Banderas one from the mid 90s.
I have, and that would be a very fun episode. I have like 3 anecdotes related to that movie.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love that one. And it has a similar setup where the guy is wronged, gets sent away to prison, and then the villain like abuses the wife, kind of adopts the daughter, and then the guy comes back and he has to train like a successor, like Batman Beyond. And and it's Anthony Hopkins is the old dude, and then he trains Antonio Banderas to like insert himself into this high society and get revenge on this muckety muck high elite figure.
Mm-hmm. Is it The Mask of Zorro? Is that the Banderas one?
I think so. Because they made a
Yeah.
sequel that was like The Legend of Zorro or something that wasn't as good.
And there was an old one that was The Mark of Zorro. Anyways, go on.
Yeah. Different movie. Not this movie. But some parallels for sure. Because now it's just the goal of revenge. It's, wow, that's really fucked up what Alan Rickman did. I gotta get him. And I like that periodically Helena Bonham Carter will like check Johnny Depp, be like, okay, stop and take a breath and think about what you're doing, because is this the most sensible course? Not that she herself has it all together, though.
It's interesting that he's a judge. I was thinking about that. It kind of steers you away from like a more anti-capitalism reading on it, because a judge is not really an economic figure, but he is like a higher class person. And so like one of the elements of this is of course like a class tragedy, because the barber's poor, the pie shop owner is poor, and there's the notion of the gears of capitalism, like the poor people keeping things moving, getting food on the table, providing the labor, that kind of gets sort of addressed, but it's complicated. I don't know, because you don't actually end up sympathizing. I mean, you sort of do. Like, he's a tragic figure, but he's not a heroic figure at all either, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's certainly elements in this story where you've got the colonialism going on. You've got the idea that it's like the Enlightenment is happening and spreading across the globe. And you got this powerful nation in 1800s England, but they're not in a place where they deserve to be the moral arbiters of the world because they're just as corrupt as anybody else. They're just as animalistic, naturalistic, McTeague of anybody. I was thinking of McTeague, which is one of my favorite books. And yeah, it's like they're just driven by urges and selfishness and any delusions of like a higher morality are false.
Right. And it's like kind of a classic uprising tale. You know, it's like Eisenstein and the French Revolution and stuff. It's like the peasants claim power, but here, like, their attempts to strike back at the rich just make everybody worse. Like, I mean, we'll get to it, but it's like every choice just results in more suffering, basically.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those stories where like from the jump, nothing's going to get better.
Oh, one more thing that occurred to me. I think I read it somewhere, so it occurred to me is not correct because I saw it referenced somewhere. But by cutting the lyrics of the Sweeney Todd song, the framing song, doesn't the opening number announce that Sweeney Todd is dead and tragic, as opposed to we don't necessarily know when this starts what's going to happen to him? I mean, we kind of glean that it's not good. It's a very gothic, macabre film, but
Right. It says that he dies at the end. So that was one thing that was cut.
yeah, so you don't necessarily know that explicitly.
Mrs. Lovett says, "Hey, you know, you were a barber here before. You should be a barber again." And she's saved his razors for him, his like shiny case of straight razors. I really like the song that he sings because he speaks to the razors. It's called My Friends, and a lot of this movie is spent in this little room, his barber shop.
Mm-hmm.
I think they make good use of it. Like, I don't get tired of being in this space, but this bit is a highlight when he's kind of there for the first time and he's singing that he's come back and now he has this job to do where, what does he say? Till now your shine was merely silver, but soon you shall drip rubies. So he's ready to kill a guy with his razor blade.
Mm-hmm. And we get some bright red grading on the anytime there's blood in this.
Yeah. Also during this song, Mrs. Lovett is like, "Hey, I'm interested in you. We could have a thing here. You're unencumbered, you're unattached, and you're back now." And even though her name is Mrs. Lovett, her husband has subsequently died at some point. So she's very much after Johnny Depp.
And there's a lot of kind of parent-child relationships in this, or quasi-parent-child relationships going on in this. I feel like there's a lot going on under the hood with what this is trying, things that you can kind of think about with regards to what does this say about the role of family units in lower class or in the industrial society, and like what is the purpose of love and romance, is particularly in a modern society, and especially as that kind of comes crumbling down. You know, I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yes. Because Anthony spies in a window above the street this beautiful young blonde woman who we learn is the daughter, Joanna, Benjamin Barker's daughter, who's been adopted by the judge. And the judge is very protective of her, because he has designs on her. Because remember, the wife killed herself, we hear, drank poison. So she's gone. But it's like, oh, we talked in Twinless. It's like the one brother died, but here's this other brother. And maybe I got a chance with him.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's even ookier here because he's adopted the daughter and raised her for like 15 years. And now he wants to marry her, which I wonder if that was ever legal even then. But he controls the laws, right? He's the legal figure. He is the
Yeah.
law.
I am the law. Have you ever seen that Onion video about the Supreme Court talking about the death penalty?
I think so. What's the gist?
The gist of it is that the Supreme Court is basically a bunch of like action movie degenerates, like talking about how the death penalty is badass and stuff. And there's a lot of really funny bits in that. One is they start, all the judges say, I am the law, or all the justices say, I am the law over and over at each other.
Yeah, from Judge Dredd.
And one of the justices defied normal convention and instead issued an illustration of what he thought the death penalty could be like. And it's like a post-apocalyptic battle type thing. It's very funny. It's one of my favorite Onion TV clips. So
One of my favorite of those Onion videos from that era was scientists have successfully taught a gorilla it will die. Like through sign language, they've educated a gorilla about its mortality.
did you know we've had someone on the pod who wrote for The Onion?
Oh, really? Who was that?
Rhiannoch Robinson, who was on our music or Disney song draft. She wrote for The Onion.
That's very cool.
And she recently released some music. She's a bit of a polymath. So I'll post in the Discord her I think it's an EP of music.
Okay. To establish himself again as a barber, Sweeney Todd goes out into the town square to demonstrate his abilities, and he challenges this Market Square barber who's out there, like the other game in town, this snake oil salesman named Adolfo Pirelli, and he's played by Sacha Baron Cohen. So here in 2007, we got Borat as this. Sweeney Todd calls him a mountebank. I wager I could shave a cheek with 10 times more dexterity than any street mountebank. And I love this sequence. This medicine wagon challenge scene.
And I really like Sacha Baron Cohen's performance. He really seems to most kind of be this theatrical character. Just very fun to watch.
His top hat is extra tall. He's got all these colorful fabrics that he wears. And he's got this crazy Italian accent that he's singing in.
It's very funny. Yeah.
He also has this like boy servant who helps him out with his wagon. This is one difference from the stage show, because in most productions that I've seen, he's usually presented as like a young adult who is simple-minded. Like he's got intellectual disabilities of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
But in the movie, it's actually a little kid. He's like 10.
Oh, I forgot about that. Because that's one of the parent-child type relationships I was thinking of, even though it's like mentor and mentee. But that does have a different dynamic if it's a quote-unquote simpleton.
But the boy comes out with a little drum to like announce that Pirelli is in the square. And this whole bit, this like 10 minutes, I really like the realization of this, because there's the big crowd there to witness the performance, and which barber are they going to choose? And the cop played by Timothy Spall happens to be there. And so Sweeney Todd says, oh, well, in this contest, Beetle Bamford, this police official, can be the judge. And the challenge is who can shave a patron faster. Which, I don't know, speed is not necessarily something I'm looking for in my shave.
I think they say speed and precision, but speed being a major part of it is odd.
Oh, yes. The fastest, smoothest shave is the winner. It's funny because Pirelli has this very histrionic style. and this braggadocious song where he says, "Now, signorini, signori, I mixed the lather, but first do you gather around, signorini, signori, you're looking a man who has had the glory to shave the Pope, Mr. Sweeney, whoever, I beg your pardon, will probably say it was only a cardinal. Nope, it was the Pope." And so, talking himself up, talking about, oh, he shaved all the crown heads of Europe. Meanwhile, Sweeney Todd is kind of just standing there, letting this guy blow smoke. And then in the moment that Pirelli is singing this long, drawn-out high note, Johnny Depp flashes into action, and it's like anime sword swipes. It's like, and then before the note is done, he's shaved the whole guy.
This is one of several sequences that, if you either know the premise or you've seen it before, is kind of charged with this tension, because at any point the slipping of a blade could mean blood, death. So there's like this implicit violence.
That's true. It's a lethal implement. And we've got kind of two parallel stories going on, because at this point Anthony has made contact with Joanna. And at first, they're just kind of eyeing each other. She's up in the window, he's down in the street. But they seem to have this connection. And Alan Rickman notices that Anthony is out in the street gandering. He says, "Gandered? You gandered!" And he like brings him into the house and lays out that all the law enforcement in the town is in the judge's pocket. And he has Timothy Spall rough this guy up, this young guy, who also eventually showed up in the Harry Potter movies. He plays young Grindelwald. So actually, different points in life, this actor, whose name is Jamie Campbell Bower, played young Grindelwald, and Johnny Depp played older Grindelwald.
Wow.
But that, I don't think had happened by 2007. So we had a lot of Harry Potter alums and future Harry Potter actors. Joanna has a good song about, so she has pet birds and birds in a cage, and the metaphor is that she herself is a bird in a cage because she's in this horrible situation where her adopted father is lusting after her and basically keeping her in a lockbox until that's more socially acceptable. Very weird, very bleak. This is one change that I like from the stage show, because in the stage show, the Anthony Joanna romance gets more songs and is like more cartoony melodrama. Like they're more, I don't know, cardboard cutouts, like flat characters, and like almost silly that, oh, they're the lovey-dovey, you know, sing us your love song, lover, from Over the Garden Wall. Oh, this is the stock character that they're here to play. Whereas, I don't know, we've spoken before that the first medium you experience a story in, you'll tend to prefer that. Like, however you first see it treated, like, that's what you gravitate to. And anybody who does it differently, it's like, well, that's different. I don't know if I like it that way. And I don't know. I think it works to kind of streamline it here, and like we understand the emotions that she's trapped and in this like depraved environment, and that if she genuinely likes Anthony, it's because he just lets her out of that bad situation.
Yeah. Can you remind me, is the Anthony connection just that they like met on this boat, or is he connected with Sweeney Todd / Barker prior to them meeting on the boat?
I believe they met on the boat. He says Anthony pulled Sweeney Todd in, like Sweeney was out there floating and Anthony rescued him. But they didn't know each other in the past.
Gotcha.
Because he's won this contest now, Sweeney Todd has this growing clientele. Everybody is like, oh, well, this guy's the better barber, so let's go to him. Including the Beetle. Timothy Spall makes an appointment to come to the barber. So he's hyped now. Oh man, the Beetle's gonna come, and he's like number 2 on my hit list. He's not as good as Alan Rickman, but I can at least kill him, and then I'll have, you know, achieved something. But before the Beetle shows up, Pirelli comes to the tonsorial parlor. That's That's what they call this barbershop. It's not a barbershop, it's a tonsorial parlor.
I love that.
And Pirelli comes up because the geography of this setup is that the barbershop is the second floor of the building, the pie shop is the lower floor of the building. That's important. It's going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
But Pirelli goes upstairs and confronts Johnny Depp upstairs. And he reveals that Pirelli, too, is living under an alias. That once upon a time, he was just a British guy, I guess. In the stage show, he has a crazy Irish accent. That's the real him, is this Irish guy. He says, Danny Collins the name, like a Lucky the Leprechaun. Here he has some other name. They made that less of a thing here. I guess he was somebody English. He says that back in the day, 15 years ago, he was like an apprentice to the barber, there to sweep up hair or something, some minor job that Benjamin Barker hired him for. And he recognized Barker because he had these nice silver razors.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, because of this stunt in the marketplace, he's been cut out of income potential. He's not going to be making as much money, but he remembers that Barker is a fugitive, and so he's here to blackmail Barker/Sweeney. And just immediately, Sweeney snaps and smashes his head in with a tea kettle. So this is our first, like, gasp of the blood.
And one thing I like, by the way, he gets identified by his razor blade. It seems like a symbol of portent. Like in some ways, it's like, oh, recognized by your labor, by what you do, you know? But also, it's just like there's this charge or irony to it, because that's the thing with that controls his destiny too, as we'll see, is those blades. So I always thought that was an interesting touch.
Yeah. And at the end of the My Friend song that he sings to the razor, he brandishes the blade way up in the air and he says, "At last, my arm is complete again." So very much that's like part of his body. It's actually a slight change from the stage show, because in the stage show he says, "My right arm is complete again." I just think it streamlines it. This whole project is just a little bit streamlined from the stage show, and I think it is just more impactful to say "my arm" than "my right arm." I don't know. So Pirelli's down for the count. Like, he stirs once, and then Sweeney slashes his throat, and he has to hide the body quickly, because who should be coming up the walk now but the judge? So, oh, wow, grand prize, jackpot. The judge has decided to come to the barbershop.
Credits roll.
Alan Rickman here, and a lot of good things going on in this scene. Because, okay, the body is stashed in the trunk, and, like, by this point, remember the kid is, like, down in the lower level too, because he works for Pirelli, so he's, like, getting antsy of, oh, well, where has Pirelli gone? And Mrs. Lovett is keeping him busy downstairs, feeding him pies and giving him liquor. And he's one of these precocious British street children in an age before OSHA. So he has, like, work experience and alcohol experience, and it's kind of funny and dark and bleak. But here's the judge now, here to see Sweeney Todd. There's actually an exchange before this where the Beetle talks to the judge out in the street and hypes up Sweeney Todd as a great barber of, oh, I just saw this stunt in the marketplace of this great master barber. And I bring it up just because one of the lines that's changed from the stage show to the movie is when the Beetle is telling the judge that to appeal to his, like, teenage daughter as a romantic prospect, he should really clean himself up. He's like, you've got stubble, you don't pay enough attention when you shave in the morning, judge. But, you know, to be more seductive, you could go to this expert barber and he'll clean you up.
That just ain't right.
And Alan Rickman says, well, perhaps I am a bit over hasty in the mornings. But in the stage show, he says, Perhaps I am too hasty in my morning ablutions. How could you cut the word ablutions? That's such a good word. When I heard that in the stage show, my mind was opened. It's like, of all the things to cut, you're going to cut a reference to bathing as ablutions? No, you gotta leave that in there. Demerit for dropping ablutions. But he heads now to the barber, and here he is. This is the grand prize. This is the guy Sweeney most wants to kill. And what do they say in The Incredibles? He starts monologuing. This is when he has the chance to do the thing, to kill the judge, but he drags it out. Because he's got to be, like, poetic about it, I guess. He's got to entice the judge into his barber chair. And the conversation that they get into as the judge sits down in the chair is how they both appreciate pretty women. And I quite like this song too and how it's staged. Because, yeah, a lot going on. That they do have this connection with the same woman, but also Sweeney wants to kill this guy. Wants to kill this judge because he's a creepy, monstrous lech who has done these bad things. And the tension of, oh, at any moment he could slit the throat because he's shaving him. And I like the music here too, because there's like whistling and humming and I don't know. The execution of it is good. And you got this silver blade going back and forth. Suddenly Anthony butts in. Just at the moment that he's finally going to slit the judge's throat, Anthony busts in and he says, Mr. Todd, I've met this beautiful blonde girl, Joanna, and she's going to run away from her creepy guardian and marry me. And the judge is there in the chair. And it's like, well, bad time to let the cat out of the bag. Because then the judge is infuriated and he storms off and doesn't get murdered.
And it's like, I'm never coming back to this place if this is who you spend time with. It's like, oh, God damn it. It was right there. I had the slit on your throat. It was just going to go zunk and it was going to be done.
So just terrible blue balls here.
Blood balls, yeah. So I was wondering this time as I was watching Brian, what would have happened if he had monologued a little less and just murdered him? How would the story have played out differently? And I don't know.
Yeah, so I think by this point, he had not developed his whole plan with Mrs. Lovett yet. It was still kind of in development. I guess Anthony still would have showed up, right?
And seen the bloody mass.
And there's discussion at points where, like, Mrs. Lovett actively encourages Sweeney to kill Anthony. So nobody here, other than maybe Anthony and Joanna, are really good people. Like, there's a lot of shadiness. And the kid, I guess.
And I think that's somewhat intentional. It's like this world wears you down, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it plays out very, very differently. Because when we get to the twist, that would have shaken out totally differently as well. Like, everything about Sweeney Todd's fate would have been different if he had just monologued. You know, he didn't watch The Incredibles. You caught me monologuing.
Yes. And another big change is that Sweeney Todd's very next song, he's so angry that he missed out on this chance to kill the judge that now he's having an epiphany. That's the name of the song, an epiphany. And what he realizes is he should just kill everybody. It's no longer about this guy he has a vendetta against. Let me just kill everyone.
Everyone's a part of the system. Kill them all.
And that's a big escalation. That's a very fast pivot, I think.
It's a snap in his brain, yeah.
We all deserve to die, he says. I actually have read the original pulp novel from the 1840s. And in that, it doesn't have the whole backstory that he's, like, been wronged and is actually justified in what he's doing. He's just a barber who kills people sometimes. But he's also, like, kind of a funny character in the story, because at one point he gets, like, trapped somewhere where he's going to get exposed, and he's trying to weasel his way out by telling lies, and it's still, you know, he's more complicated than just a villain. It seems like Bond and then later Sondheim did try to kind of, at least in the first part, explain away and, like, give reasons for him to be a sympathetic character. But this epiphany moment definitely strains that. And you may wonder if he's going to start killing people en masse, he's going to have this bulk of bodies. How's he going to get away with it? What's he going to do? But in tandem with Mrs. Lovett, they come up with a plan. And the plan is pies made of people.
There you go.
Yes, they're going to be serving up human meat in the meat pies. And they have this whole mechanical apparatus to achieve this. Because Sweeney builds his barber chair such that it like collapses like a fully reclining airplane seat and can sluice people down through a trapdoor in the floor. And they go down a chute like through the pie shop down into the basement below the pie shop, where Mrs. Lovett has this industrial grade furnace and like meat grinder.
And they always hit the ground with a real big thunk, like the bones and tendons splattering, you know?
Right. So if getting your throat slit doesn't kill you, the fall will.
This is just a really, I mean, obviously, like, I'm kind of like my dad, like, this is kind of messed up, man. But it's also just pretty fascinating because you're kind of, okay, so this whole thing, we'll see, draws Sweeney Todd and Miss Lovett closer together, too. So you kind of have all tied up together. You have violence, and then you're linking that with like sustenance, like with food. It's like to survive is to be violent, but that's also tied with like this commerce. I'm selling this. Now we're going to get rich because we're selling these pies that are the result of that. But then also it's tied with like this romance because it's drawing them together. So like all of this stuff that's like bad, but also food is like in general, food is good. Like, that's not like a controversial thing. It's like people need to eat, and there's sensorial pleasure in eating, you know, but like it's combined with this cruelty and this violence, and it's just a very fascinating story construct.
Right. Also, though, it's this industrialization of food. It's like you don't make it in your own home. You go to the store and you buy the food that is made by these industrial processes. It's kind of like the stuff, like the very earliest version of the stuff. That this industrial revolution has brought these processed foods.
Soylent Green.
Yeah. So very interesting. I love this time period. I love stories set in this time period. And, you know, we talk Christmas Carol all the time, but like 1843 versus 1847, it's that window in time and place.
And one thing that struck me watching this time, I think the most recent time I had seen it was the stage musical at our high school, Brian. I think I'd seen the movie just once before that. But I feel like in the movie, this segment is actually like pretty short. I don't know. I just remember the best pies in London being very elaborate on stage. Whereas here it felt like we set it up and then we immediately start breaking it down, as we'll get to.
Yeah. Because of course these human pies are stupendously successful. Everybody wants them. Completely changes the business model and prominence of Mrs. Lovett's pie shop. I don't know. I mean, I haven't had human meat, so maybe it is miraculously tasty. So I think this is the turning point between Act 1 and Act 2. You know, it's like they decide that they're going to make human pies. You step away, you can go to the bathroom, then you come back, and suddenly the business has had this complete turnaround. And one of my favorite parts, one of the parts where we do get away from this one barbershop room, is Mrs. Lovett's fantasy of what's going to happen now that they have a successful business. She says a respectable business.
It's very funny. It made me think of the old saying, there's no ethical consumption in capitalism. Because this is about as unethical a consumption as you can get.
But she paints this picture of that they're going to go off and live in like a vacation home by the sea. And just totally delusional.
Oh, yeah. You're not getting out of this one. This one is not ending happy.
Yeah, this is what's great about tragedies, is you have to have a moment in time where it looks like things could possibly work out for the central characters. before it all gets ripped away.
Right.
And she's just laying it on thick that she's physically interested in Sweeney Todd. But even in the fantasy, it's like she's making kissy eyes at him, and he is just glaring off past the horizon, this 1,000-yard stare of what he wants is revenge.
Here's where I'll say one thing I found reading some contemporary reviews and then also some letterboxd entries is that Johnny Depp's performance is very divisive. Some people really like it, and some people really, really don't like it. He kind of chooses a very interior, understated, brooding take on it. He's not doing a lot of external like emoting, and so you kind of get it's just like this grim, still anger that's always driving him. And yes, you get that parodied in that little segment, which I also like, where she's imagining them, and he's still kind of doing the angry still face, except now they're at like a sunny beach and wearing old-fashioned swim trunks and stuff, which is fun.
No. There's a lot of innuendo in this song, and she's laying out that when they're at this magical place, this home by the sea, they're going to get married. She says, "By the sea, Mr. Todd, married nice and proper. By the sea, bring along your chopper." So, he kills people with a knife. So, in one sense, that's his chopper, but British slang also has chopper as a penis.
Okay.
So, like, there is a tabloid article from back in the day. So, Prince Harry, in the army, he was a helicopter pilot. And apparently he went and visited his girlfriend somewhere on her, like, landed estate at some point pre-Megan, and he flew his helicopter to get there. And the headline was, "Harry parks his chopper in her garden." So, there you go. But a couple things come to a head all at once, because Anthony has discovered that the judge has sent the uncooperative Joanna away, consigned her to an old school insane asylum. So she's been clapped in irons off at this imposing asylum, no mobile style. But Sweeney Todd has a plan for that, because he says, because wig makers get human hair apparently in this era, and maybe still, who can say? These days they probably get it from India or something. You get it internationally, but in this time they say they shear the heads of mental patients and they harvest the hair for wigs. So just another dimension of this capitalism at work of, humans as a resource.
Right.
But as a card-carrying member of the Barbers Guild, Sweeney has an in, and he can send his apprentice to the asylum and shear some heads. His plan also, though, is that he is going to tell the judge that he is getting custody of Joanna, basically. He's gonna get Joanna out of the asylum, and that he'll then have possession of her, framing it that, she's seen the error of her ways and wants to reconnect with the judge. So all of this as a lure to get the judge back to the barbershop where he said he would never come back to. So it's like people have different understandings of the situation from different perspectives. Like Anthony thinks he's going to get to run away with Joanna, but really at this point, what Sweeney cares about most is kill the judge. So everybody's going to come together at a certain moment in time. Also, though, people are starting to get suspicious of this operation. This barber business where people go in and then don't leave.
That makes you think.
Yeah, I think suspicion would grow even faster than this. But there is a funny montage of all the people that he's killing. And, like, one person goes into the barbershop who has his wife and child with him. And that guy doesn't get killed. It's like this montage, these smash cuts of the throat slittings, and then suddenly one that goes as one would expect a barbershop appointment to go. It's very civil. But also the kid is getting suspicious because he has bonded with Mrs. Lovett, who has kind of adopted this boy. And he keeps talking to Mrs. Lovett saying, "Hey, do you ever think it's weird that Sweeney Todd is like a crazy guy and very menacing and kind of waves his razor around with extra gusto, and people have kind of been disappearing?
Nah. Yeah, it's all right. Well, and I kind of love the irony of this too, because one of the things is so his master was a beetle or whatever the showy barber was,
Yeah, he worked for Pirelli.
and we gather that he was like kind of a taskmaster, not nice. But then now Mrs. Lovett is like very caring for him. And so, okay, I guess like she's the better mom, but also no, because she's a part of this murder and cannibalism operation. So like the kindness is like curdled inside out with cruelty.
Yeah, because the boy assumes that Mrs. Lovett is on the level and is a good person, but she's really not either. Also suspicious is the beetle, Timothy Spall, because he says the black smoke belching out of the chimney smells terrible. And, people have brought to my attention that there's this stench. So I should really, because, you know, he wears a lot of hats. I guess he's the health inspector too. He's like, I need to make sure that everything is the way that it's supposed to be, that you're compliant with whatever codes we have here in 1840s London. Probably not a whole lot of regulations, but people do start asking questions if it smells like corpses.
Oh wait, Timothy Spall, that's character named Beetle. What's the name of the barber?
Pirelli.
Okay, gotcha. Anyways, yeah, so that's who the kid used to work for.
Mm-hmm. So it's like everything is coming together at once. Everything is clashing. So the Beatles shows up, and Sweeney gets him in the chair. In the stage show, he has a song where he's sitting in the parlor playing a little organ and just singing a silly little song while they're like waiting for things to happen. But that's cut here. Streamlining. I think that's a good change. But actually, one of the community productions I saw recently, the guy who played Beetle Bamford was a guy that I knew who did theater in college. And he just happened to be there. It's like, oh, I know that guy.
Oh, cool. That's funny.
Anyhow, the kid is questioning Mrs. Lovett, and she takes him down into the basement under the pretense that, oh, you wanted to be a bigger part of the business and you wanted to help me. So let me show you how the meat grinder works. Is taking him down there into the basement and like locks him down there so that I guess in a little while Sweeney Todd will come down and kill the kid. So that's kind of sad and not nice.
Not great parenting there.
One of many dark things, many scary things. But while the kid is down there, uncertain of what his fate is going to be, Timothy Spall's body comes flying down the chute and splatters on the floor like a overripe peach.
I had forgotten that we don't actually see him die. So just out of the blue, bam, here's a Timothy Spall corpse for you, buddy. And it's like right as the kid is like starting to look around at all this stuff, it's like, this looks like a toe. This looks like a hand. And then, yeah. Truth bomb.
Literally. And it's really like everybody is there. Every character has showed up at the shop because Anthony came by with Joanna, and then he's like, well, hey, I need to like rent a horse and cart so that we can get out of the city. But you'll be good if you wait here because Sweeney Todd is my friend. So Joanna is there. Anthony has gone off.
It struck. I thought this time I could see some resemblance to Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter. I don't know if you've seen her in anything.
Well, she was in Nosferatu, right?
Yes, yeah. I was like, okay, that's kind of good casting. It's supposed to be Johnny Depp's daughter, and I could kind of see it there. But anyways, yeah, so we're all gathering.
Yeah. So, like, Joanna hides, I think, in the Pirelli trunk from before, while all this other stuff is going on. Because then the next person who shows up is this beggar woman who has been there periodically throughout the show to, like, harangue people. And just another, like, embodiment of the suffering of the lower class.
Yeah, I really like it in the stage show. She always shows up when we're like contemplating how bleak life is and how bleak London is. And like when one thing is transitioning to another, we see that like dull modernity still goes on.
Yeah. And she really hates Mrs. Lovett. She's very suspicious of Mrs. Lovett, and she's always calling out Mrs. Lovett. And she yells mischief a lot. But it seems that the reason that the beetle came around in the first place, when he's saying, oh, there have been complaints, probably they came from this lady. And so Mrs. Lovett doesn't like her either. And we may find out why that is soon enough. But in this moment, she's just there at the barber shop, yelling mischief again, getting in the way. And because Sweeney knows that the judge is coming, and the judge is who he really cares about, he just immediately slashes the throat of this woman who's being obnoxious, dumps her down the chute, and then the judge comes around the corner. And we get a little reprise of Pretty Women, but no more blue balls. He gets to finish this time.
It ain't pretty, dog.
He stabs Alan Rickman right in the jugular, and the blood sprays the camera. I love that the blood sprays the camera. It's like literally you see the little droplets of, like a little hose.
It's a little mess here. Actually, it's a big mess, Brian.
He was injured. Injured bad.
Oh, I love that. I quote that to my kids sometimes when they do something like walk into a wall or some dumb kid thing. You're injured bad. Which is, of course, a reference to the YouTube video of this kid. I think it was for like an insurance commercial, but he's talking about remembering a movie that he and his mom watched. It's like a kid say the darndest thing type thing. And the punchline is, it kicked him in the penis, except he has a lisp. So he says penis. He was injured bad. It's a great one.
One of those like 2006 memes.
If even that late, yeah.
So down the chute goes Alan Rickman. Sweeney goes down to the basement because he's got to wrap up the loose end of the kid, but he finds down in the basement Mrs. Lovett's down there, and she cries out because she was like grappling with one of the corpses. Like one of the people was not quite dead yet, and she cries out. And so Sweeney Todd goes over to now this pile of like half a dozen corpses, and he makes a closer inspection, and he notices something. He notices that the beggar woman that he dispatched was actually his wife from the before times.
Boom.
So that's the twist here, is that she's dead by his own hand, and he confronts Mrs. Lovett. Yeah, hey, wait a minute.
Hold on a second.
You said that she killed herself. And Mrs. Lovett has got the like Shakespearean loophole. She says, well, no, I didn't say that. I said she drank poison. I didn't say she died. Like it drove her crazy. It drove her from reason, but she wasn't dead. She was just a ranting street woman.
And it does make you wonder a lot of things. So first of all, what if he had killed the judge the first time through? He wouldn't have ever slashed the beggar woman's throat. So maybe he would have discovered this truth and reunited with his wife, except capitalism had already done its dirty deeds on everyone. You know, it wasn't going to be a happily ever after. The beggar woman was already driven mad. They were already poor. They had already killed someone, even if, you know, killing a judge is not something you just walk away scot-free from. It would have been haunting him until he got caught, if not for the rest of his life. And yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I think the twist works a little better in the stage show when you get a little more of the beggar woman on the periphery. I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, wait, who is this? Like, I guess we saw her a couple times, but she's not like a super prominent character before then.
Right. But I think the decision was made so that we intentionally saw less of her, because if you spend more time with the actress, you might put together, oh, this is the same person.
Yeah, that's true.
And she's like, very much the costume obscures her face, and they don't want you to figure it out ahead of time. But there's also an exchange between Anthony and Joanna before this all goes down, that Anthony is still like optimistic and starry-eyed. And he's like, "Oh, we'll run away together and we'll finally be happy and no more dark things." And bear in mind that this has been Joanna's reality for her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, "Dude, what are you talking about?"
It now occurs to me in a way that when you say it like that, and now we're talking through it, that there's actually like, I don't know, I had thought of it more as like a child or a father-son type thing of like, you'll see the wicked ways of this world. But actually, Anthony and Sweeney are kind of parallels of each other. Like they're both in different ways, like connecting with a woman and like trying to lead them out of the mire that they're in with a scheme. But like every single thing that could be different tonally and circumstantially between those are very, very different. Anthony's like authentic. He's like, I want to go help this person and make a good life. But Sweeney Todd, everything is already doused in tragedy and violence and blood and all this.
Yeah. So Anthony and Joanna do ultimately get out of it. One wonders what future lies ahead for them. But what happens to Sweeney is he's now down in the basement. He's found out that he's killed his original wife. And I love the snap turn of Mrs. Lovett is like, "Well, now we can get married." Like, this is not the time and place to be saying that. But it always makes me laugh.
No, that's a definite moment of black comedy for sure.
Sweeney grabs her and sings a little bit of a reprise of a song that for a split second it's like, he's saying the thing she wants to hear. Like, "Oh, you're a wonder. This is great. Incredible." But what he does is he's sweeping her off her feet over to her own oven to throw her in. So she doesn't get killed first. She just goes straight in the oven.
And that's kind of brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. But the final beat is he's despondent now and he's like sitting on the floor, cradling the wife, just soaking in the blood. Everything is like 6 inches deep in blood by this point. And the kid creeps out from the corner and picks up the discarded razor and slices Sweeney's throat. And that's the final tableau, is just this dark room with all the like cartoon red blood piling up in this heap of bodies.
Yeah, I mean, it's barely even a tableau. It like almost instantly cuts away to credits. It made me think of like, me and my wife have been watching a lot of Hitchcock movies. I guess we do get a minute of like the blood dripping from him onto his wife. So we do get a moment of that. But what it reminded me of is I've been watching older movies, classic movies with my wife a lot recently, and so many of them, like the climax ends and then it just ends. You're just done. There's like no wind down. There's no denouement. And this has a little bit of that too, because it's like Sweeney Todd gets murdered. Oh, we're not going to reckon with anything. We're just going to watch him bleed out onto his dead wife, whom he killed. I didn't feel the absence of the closing number here, where I'm not saying it's like ruined without it, but I think it plays differently if you have a closing number where we're like, this world sure is messed up. This thing that happened to Sweeney Todd was a confluence of all sorts of messed up things, and also just ain't life grand, you know?
Right.
Which if I recall from the stage show, is kind of the effect of the final number.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked before, probably when we covered Little Shop of Horrors, that a difference between stage and screen is that at the end of a stage show, all the actors come out and they take their bows. So it's like you see them up and moving around again, which is not usually how movies are presented.
That too. That's a good point. That's another element of like decompression. It's like, whew, we can breathe. We can celebrate the art we just saw, you know? Cheer for it.
Yep.
Separate the artists and the thing that they've made from the fact that they're actually people who are separate from the art that they made, you know?
Right. But that's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007. And yeah, I thought we did a good job talking through differences that we've noticed in the stage show versus the film treatment. Broadly, It's like they made it a little compactor. They cut out some business for the Beetle. They cut out some business for the bigger woman. Cut out some of the superfluous numbers from Joanna and Anthony. Most of it is there, but it comes at you fast. That really struck me this time. It's like song, 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 song. And it felt fast this time, but I've also seen this movie a whole lot.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. Opposite of Wicked.
Where they've inflated it, turned it into two movies.
Right.
Have you watched the second one already?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but a couple people I know have. Gavin has seen it, did not like it, but I don't know if he liked the first. I can't remember. So, I mean, I will see it. It's likely to get multiple Academy Awards, and I try to see most of the award nominees.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll see it before long. But shall we decide, Dan, is it good?
Sure. So, is it good is our signature section where we each give the movie a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, which is a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating, toward a good, which is an 8 out of 8. So, I will go first. Is Sweeney Todd from 2007 good? So, I tried to do a little bit of reading and like research because it's just something was tugging at me that like this feels like an important musical, like an important piece of art, and I don't really have the full context for it. I'm not a theater head. I read a little bit about Stephen Sondheim and like what some of his characteristics are. So he's known, I think, for complex musicals with like a lot of motifs and having like very specific portraits that are designed like it doesn't intentionally play up its poetic elements, but it's very easy to prescribe poetic elements onto what's going on. Like another one is he wrote the lyrics, but not the music for West Side Story. So you kind of have just this, story of an immigrant that's a tragedy. There's a lot that you can watch it and think about as you watch it, but it's also just a story. And I think people kind of like that. It's like it's not didactic at all, but it still feels very rich. I could definitely detect that here and kind of admire that. But also, I feel like I said earlier that Tim Burton's fascinations are more with just the gothic, gruesome, a little bit of the black comedy, but he doesn't even really play it that funny. He really just plays it like he lets the macabre soak over you, and you can pull as much or as little black comedy from that as you want, with a couple exceptions. Like when they do the cutaway for the imagining their lives at the beach, and he's in that silly bathing suit and still doing his grim face. That's very funny. I don't know what to feel. I feel a lot of like unresolved feelings about this as an adaptation and just as a movie experience too. It is very grim, very gray and blue. I'm going to go for now upper end good, 5 out of 8. I feel like I could be talked into a very good. And if you were like an ardent hater, you might be able to talk me down to like a lower end good. I don't know. I'm kind of still sorting through my feelings on it, but it's a fascinating story, and I was glad to revisit it through the eyes of someone who has learned a lot more about movies and drama since I last saw it, taking away a little bit more from it. So, but what about you, Brian? Is Sweeney Todd good?
So this is a very Brian Core movie. It's a musical. It's a satire. It's got that Victorian setting. I really like this. I'm going to give it a solid 7, which we call exceptionally good. There was a time I might have given it an 8. Like the very first time I watched it, I was very much on its wavelength. Now I've seen other adaptations, and I think some of the changes here make sense. I mean, you got to cut some of the fat from a stage show to a movie because you can't count on there being an intermission. Like making the servant of Pirelli a kid, I think that's a good change. And some of the things like cutting out the extra business for Anthony and Joanna that made them a little cartoonier, I like that. I think we get enough to care about them and like see them as the good people who deserve to get out of this and not have their throats slit. You really just feel that the way that this depicts society is that people are caught in the gears and that it's not really a good state of affairs for anybody. And isn't this bleak? I think it drives that home in a way that is striking, but also like kind of funny. And the lyrics are so good. It's hard to get across the spirit of the show just talking about it. It's like you got to listen to the songs because there's a lot of
Mhm.
wordplay and it's dense, but also still very musical. There's a song that the kid sings where he's reassuring Mrs. Lovett that she shouldn't worry, that he's going to be looking out for her. And of course, we know that she is actually also a bad person. Like she doesn't
Mhm.
have the best intentions at heart for most of the world, although she does seem to genuinely have a soft spot for Toby, the child. But it's this mix of feelings of like there are good things in the world. It's like humans have a degree of goodness and it's just snuffed out of them by the system, and you feel like afraid for this kid of like he's going to have his goodness snuffed out. And you feel a little bit of the same thing for Anthony. And so I think that all works and is palpable and is treated well. If there's anything that sets it back, it's the Burtoniness. It
Mhm.
doesn't serve this story that has already been brought to life by a talent like Sondheim. It just feels like a veneer of like this is the Burton version of this previous thing. And that's done by having Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, and they have their hair swept back, and they got stripes in their hair, and they're little pinch dolls like Nightmare Before Christmas people. And like that is all just like set dressing. It's like something that's put over top of the hardwood flooring of the good bones of Sweeney Todd.
It's almost like camp, like the Edward Scissorhands, highly artificial theatrical design of it.
Right. But those are my thoughts. I do quite like it. It's still on my top 100 film favorites, and I would always recommend it. If you like movies like I like, you'll probably like this movie.
Recommend it if you like. That's the Colton way.
Exactly.
Recommend it if you like Brian Core, and if you don't like Hope.
Yeah. I mean, I talked up Chicago when we talked Chicago, and that's the blistering satire musical.
Yeah. So one thing I feel like you kind of said, but can you give us one more thesis statement? Why is this a Thanksgiving movie?
Oh yes. Okay. So remember, Sweeney is coming home from a long time away, and his plan is that he's going to reconnect with his family. And then he ends up not exactly doing that, but he has for a moment this like alternate family of, oh, maybe he can have a life with Mrs. Lovett and Toby, and that could be a family. Ultimately, he's driven away from that by the thirst for vengeance, and it doesn't go that route. But also, there's like this other generation of Anthony and Joanna, and it's like you're building a family, you're growing a family, and just all throughout, it's about eating. Right? It's about
Hmm.
preparing food, eating food, and what is the definition of family. And there's crass consumerism, right? It's and you go to the store and you get your food. And so it's this like developing sense of modernity, and the shape of community is changing. So all of that I think plays into Thanksgiving as it now stands. There's colonialism too, right? It's this colonial force, and what are the strengths and weaknesses of that?
But it's like a black ironic version of all those things. Like normally Thanksgiving ends on a wholesome note. Like the takeaway of Thanksgiving stories is usually like whatever else the hell happens to us, we got each other. And that love brings us peace and life. And not in Sweeney Todd, buddy.
No, it's not gonna warm the cockles of your heart. It might make you hungry though. I was tempted to try one of these pies.
Interesting. Interesting. Do you know the Game of Thrones, the Frey pies theory?
No, enlighten me.
So I think it's explicitly confirmed by the show, but in the book, it's done very cleverly because you kind of have to be looking for it to notice it. But there's this one very fat character. His name is Walder Frey, I think. I think he's the fat guy. He has a vengeance against, I think it's the Lannisters. It's some other family that he's got a vendetta against. It's been a while now since I read those books or even watched the show. But he holds this big feast and he makes these two glorious pies at the same time that two people from the other family go missing. And everybody comments on the pies and how they're delicious. And the book doesn't explicitly state it. And by the way, he's like relishing it. He's like eating himself, and like the juices are going down his face. And he's singing songs about how he hates his enemies and stuff. And what we're supposed to infer is that if you're clever, you're like, oh, he probably just killed the people and put them in the pies. But I think the show makes that explicit. So I was thinking of the Walder pies too here, or the Frey pies, excuse me.
There's also the story of Dunderbeck's Wonderful Sausages, which is in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book. And it was also a song that we learned at Boy Scout camp of, there was a man named Dunderbeck, invented a machine. It was for grinding sausages, and it did go by steam. But Dunderbeck did not dismay when he ran out of beef. He simply switched to household pets and ground them up in brief. And it's got verses where he runs out of cats and dogs, and then he starts snatching kids, and people go in the sausage grinder. And of course, it's a huge success. Everybody wants these new, delicious sausages.
So it's the same idea, yeah.
I don't know that it would really be that much of a difference. I think meat tastes like meat. Like, there are subtle variations, but you're not going to go gaga for one type of meat over another.
So I've read a little bit about it because people have asked, like, what would human meat taste like? Because I don't want to eat human meat, but I'm very curious. And I read an article that tried to answer it, and basically it would be like very rich pork, probably. It's because we eat a lot of sugar and fat, and so that would do that. But we also, I mean, different people to different degrees don't like fatten ourselves the way that farmers fatten pigs. So it might not be exactly that way. It'd be a little different, but I don't think I'm ever going to find out, Brian. I'll let the mystery be.
No. Yeah. Probably the same boat. I don't think I'll get there either. Anecdote. I took German in school, and the two big German news stories when I was in high school in like 2005 were Angela Merkel becoming the chancellor, first female chancellor of Germany, and then she was chancellor for like 20 years. Like, until just recently, she was the chancellor of Germany. But the other big news story was the Craigslist cannibal. Do you remember that, Dan?
No.
Did that news story make it to you? Okay, so there was this German guy who posted on Craigslist that he had a cannibal fetish, and he wanted to connect with someone who would let him kill and eat them.
Okay.
And he found somebody, and they did this. They went through the actions of, he killed this guy and ate this guy, and it was ostensibly all consensual because they had the chat logs. But then the legal matters of, is that okay? And basically, no. You're not allowed to kill somebody and eat them, but it does present some odd gray areas of if that is what they wanted, I guess.
Isn't that why Army Hammer got canceled? Because he was posting on cannibal fetish forums or something like that?
I think that's true, but I don't think Army Hammer was one or the other of these guys, but it was a case like that, yes.
Gotcha. All right, one last thing. You asked earlier what performance would I want to play on Broadway or on stage, I guess. And I was thinking about it. I was trying to imagine different roles, and I couldn't shake the image of like some male character singing like a great I Want song. And what was it that I was thinking of? And I finally placed it, and it is Newsies, Santa Fe. What's the name of the main guy? Is it Jack?
Yeah, Jack Kelly.
Yeah, I would be Jack Kelly. That's who I would be. I would sing, when I dream on my own, I'm alone, but I ain't lonely. I could just imagine standing up stage, belting that out, and like getting really into it emotionally.
Nice. I could see that. And maybe that's a clue that we need to have Colton back and do our Newsies episode.
Oh, good call. Yeah, sometime soon.
Yeah.
Will wants to come back on too. I'd love to have him back on. I think we're going to have another guest in December, so it should be a fun time to connect with our peeps.
Even if we ain't got hats and badges, we're a union just by saying so. And the world will know.
Yes. Ain't it a fine life carrying the banner? All right, so next week, Brian, what I'd like to do is the likely next Best Picture winner is One Battle After Another by P.T. Anderson. And we've talked one P.T. Anderson film fairly early on, and that was Boogie Nights, which I know that you're a big fan of. I've only seen, I think he has 10 movies, and I think I've seen 4 of his movies. I don't think I'm going to be completionist on this week, but I'd like to discuss Hard 8, which is his debut film. It's very different from the other ones I've seen by him. And if you feel so inclined, Brian, choose one other P.T. Anderson movie and watch that this week too. And we can talk a little bit about like what are some of the things that tie together, but also make are distinctions between the different P.T. Anderson movies. Because he's a director who I've never fully engaged with, but people are engaging with him right now because of that movie that just came out and probably going to win Best Picture. And where does he rank among great directors, or is he even a great director at all? And also our friend who's been really active on the Discord, Mitch, his podcast, they talk a lot about P.T. Anderson. It's one of Mitch and his co-host Sam's favorites. So
Cool.
there you go.
Well, that sounds fun. I'm psyched. I definitely haven't seen the lion's share of P.T. Anderson's movies. I've seen a few. So I can definitely check off a couple of those, including Hard 8.
Cool. Alrighty. Good to see you, Brian. Have a good November week. Yeah.
You as well, Dan. As always, thanks for joining us, listeners. Tune in next time.